Hello YouTube. It's been a long time, but I finally got some of the systems up and running in the new fish facility here at Dan's Fish. So I want to show you what I've got done, show you a couple things I have yet to do, and I think I'm only a couple weeks away from ordering some fish. So I'll tell you what fish I hope to order and all of that. So I'm going to flip the camera around here and take you through it. Alright, so the first thing, let's talk about water. So the water comes into the house, goes through this this tankless water heater here, so I have unlimited hot water. The hot and the cold water come up to this mixing valve, which I have set at 75 degrees. The water's not flowing through there right now, so it's a little less. It's about 73. But once the water flows through, it flows through at about 75 degrees, which for the kind of fish I'm planning on doing is about right. I think I'm going to move on from discus and do some other things, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. So this water line goes around the room, comes across here, and goes through these carbon block filters. Those take out any chlorine that I might have, and I have two of them so that I can rotate them, so I'm sure not to have a problem, because the last thing I want is to get chlorine in my tank. So I have two carbon block filters. I only need one, but I have two for redundancy. Then take you around here. Then after it goes through these carbon block filters, it goes through, this is a pressure gauge, just so I know what the system's at. It's right around, I think that's a little above 80. So it goes through here. Let me take you around to the other side. And then here is the manifold. From this manifold, which I have on a sprinkler timer, each line, several lines come out, each line goes to a row of tanks. So this line right here will go down to here, and then those black plastic valves there are the water lines. So the water goes from there and drips into the tank there. Do you see that? Hopefully you can see it back there, that little T I have. So one really important thing is, in fact, let me turn on the water real quick. Let's go over here. I'll show you how I control that, and I'll show you the water going in. So I have a Hunter sprinkler system that I got at Home Depot. It has 8 zones, and I could expand it if I needed to, but real quick, just for fun, let's turn it on and I'll show you. So the system's on now. Going through, and as you can see, the water's coming out there. One really important thing, and a mistake I think a lot of people make, is there needs to be an air gap. There needs to be a gap between where the water comes out and when it hits your tanks. If not, you'll get back siphon issues. So you want to make sure you have a gap so you can't siphon from the top tanks down into the bottom tanks, or you can't accidentally siphon water from your aquariums back into your drinking water system. That would be really bad. And your city, I'm sure, the inspector will call code on you if you do that, and you'll have a big problem. But anyway, make a water gap so you don't have siphon issues. So that is the fill system. After that, when the tanks, let's take you this way. When the tanks get full, I have these drains in here. Let me show you through here. So that is a drain, and I have a sponge over it so that small fish and plants and things like that don't get sucked into it and clog it, or if a fish happened to die and got sucked over the top of that drain pipe, that could be a problem for me. So the sponge keeps me from having clogs. And then it comes down here, runs down that drain into this. So this is my drain sump. This pump will then take that water that's drained out of the tanks up here to this pipe, which runs across and all the way to the main sewer line. So that's the system: automatic fill, automatic drain, flow through system. So that's kind of the water system, fill and drain, that I have installed. The drain has a trap on it so that I don't get any odors or anything coming up from the sewer pipe and going into my system. And then it has this handy dandy dealio so that it's easy for me to drain if I should get a clog in there or anything like that. So that's the drain system. Let's talk about humidity and heating. So this is my air exchanger. It's a heat recovery exchanger. So it brings the air from the fish room, gets sucked into this pipe, and if I put my hand over it, I can really feel the suction. It does 270 roughly square feet per minute of air. So it sucks the air out of the fish room, takes it down along these, and it goes into this machine, which exchanges it with the fresh air coming from one of these hoses. And as it almost mixes it, it goes through a manifold in there, a metal manifold with really thin chambers, so that the incoming air mixes with the heat of the outgoing air and takes the heat from that air, so that when the air comes in from outside, it's not super cold. So it helps with my energy bill. So that is how I keep the room from getting stale, having humidity, brings in fresh air constantly, which is nice. I don't have any of that kind of gross fish room smell or that sticky fish room feeling you get when you go into some fish rooms or fish stores. And so it exchanges the air and it heats the incoming air against the outgoing air, which makes my heating bill happy. And then speaking of heating, this is a furnace, and this sucker, man, when it turns on, it doesn't take it but a couple minutes to heat the room. It's a gas furnace. It's dedicated to the room. It's controlled by that thermostat right over there under that mixing valve. And that's how I keep the air in here fresh and heated. I have the room set to about 77 degrees or so, and that'll keep my water temperature about 75 degrees, which is what I want. The top tanks get a little warmer. But yeah, so I'm really happy with this so far. And it keeps my, let me flip this around. So far, if I look at this gauge over here, we're doing pretty good. So here's where we're at. Let's see here. It's hard backwards. There we go. We're at 30% humidity and 77 degrees right now. So I don't have a dehumidifier running in here. In my old fish room, I had run dehumidifiers, and I don't have to do that now. And it's keeping, with all these tanks full of water even, it's keeping my humidity down at about 30%, which is actually almost a little bit dry. So that's good. Don't have gross mold issues or drips on my roof or any of those things that sometimes we can get in fish rooms if we're not careful. So the other thing that keeps humidity down are these. These are these great lids. They're made out of corrugated clear plastic. The kind of sheeting plastic that's used for normally for greenhouses. So it's lightweight, it's durable, it's clear, so it lets the light in. That's what it's made to do. And if I drop it, I won't break it, and it's easy to drill. So I can put my air lines in there for my filter system really easily and not have gaps that fish can jump out of and that humidity can leak out of and water can splash out of and things. So that's pretty cool. I like these a lot. I still have to get handles and put them on, but I will do that. So I had these custom made by a plastic company, and I told them the measurements, and they cut me a bunch of them and sent them over, and it cost me less than it would have to buy glass tops, and I like these tops better. So it also allows me to do this. I can grow plants up here. So this, I forget the name of this plant. My good friend Jim Forshey gave me this and the rest of the plants you'll see in here I went to visit him in California a while ago, and he came to visit me so he could see the eclipse that we had recently, and he brought me some plants. So this plant is in there, it's starting to root out. I forget the name of it, but it smells like lemon, like a peppery lemon. It has a gorgeous smell. So I'm going to grow a bunch of plants like this out of the tops of these tanks so that the fish room smells delicious. I have basil growing up there. And then down here, I have some different peppermints and mints that Jim brought me. So these are pretty awesome. And some over there. So that's kind of the heating and humidity strategy. On the lights, I think I've showed you this before, but they're just these cheap lights from Amazon. They're 4-foot shop lights. They all chain together, so all 12 of these tanks are plugged into one plug. There's such low amperage that you can do that, and they individually will turn on or off. So if I get new fish in here or whatever, then I can just have each tank lit individually, control the lights individually, or have them chained together and have them all on as well. So that's pretty cool with the lighting. And I think I showed you this, but let me show you again. The way I have the lights on here is I just put them on these. I think I have to unplug this chain here to get this off easily. So I have them on these. These are just, it's plastic hardware for drawers that I got from Home Depot. A pack of 2 of these cost me like $2, $2.50, something like that. So I just screwed those in, and then these lights, they've got kind of this beveled edge to them, so they sit right on there and they'll stay really well. So that's how I do my lighting. Let me plug this back in. Okay, so it's kind of uniform lighting. I also, for my 30 breeders, I got a bunch of these. They're the Beams Works. I've never had them before, but I got them because they're cheap and because a 4-foot light won't fit on these tanks. So these are the 30-gallon breeders. I'll get to this rack in a minute. Here's one of the lights on it. So it can go with the white light, or it can have like a blue light on there. So really, I don't know, hopefully this isn't blinding you, but yeah, super cheap light. I think I'm gonna like them. They're up off the top enough that I think I can put my plastic lids on here and not have any issue. But anyway, I'll get back to this rack in a minute. So that's lighting. Let's talk about air. So I got this bad boy from Gemco. It's their LPH 120. So I don't know exactly what that means, but it's their second to biggest normal linear piston pump. It's fairly quiet. I mean, we're right up next to it, and this is as loud as it is. It's a lot quieter than the regenerative blowers that I've used in the past, or that I've had in fish stores that I worked at and things. So anyway, this is on a loop, so the air comes along this hose up into this PVC. The PVC runs in a loop all the way around the fish room. That's important so you don't get places of high pressure and low pressure. And then it goes into these metal valves, and each of these valves has an air line down into the tanks. So that's how I have the air. Each tank has a sponge filter and a box filter. The sponge filter for biological filtration, the box filter for mechanical filtration. It's stuffed with polyester quilt batting, and that is fine enough to strip out a lot of the fine particulates. Plus, I think a bag of 10 pounds of the stuff, which is a ton, cost less than 20 bucks at Walmart, something like that. They do need to be weighted down, so I have a bunch of marbles in there. I just got those at the 99-cent store. So for 40 bucks, I was able to fill all the box filters with fiber and weigh them down and have enough fiber for, geez, I don't know, years. So that's the air and filter system. what else can I tell you about in here? The racking system, I did the Ted Judy method, where and I have a video on this, but where I dadoed out a cut here and inserted this 2x4. I've been using a system like this in the old fish room for about 6 years, and I loved it. I never had any problems. It's efficient space-wise. I think if you build them square and build them properly, you won't have any issues of them wanting to sag on you or anything like that. But I have thought that maybe on each corner, maybe I should put a brace across here, like a triangle brace on the corners, just to prevent that from being a possibility. So I don't know if I'll do that or if I'll wait and see if there's a problem and then do that. I'm not sure. But the other rack system I had that was the same thing with my 30-gallon breeders, I never had a problem with that. So I'll probably just leave it. For storage, I bought a ton of these bins from Home Depot for cheap. They fit right under these racks, and so I can fill them with stuff and shove them under, and that way I have a lot of storage space under the racks in plastic bins. I have enough lids for all of them. I'm just still sorting all that out and getting that all put together, but I can keep them in these plastic bins with lids so that if there's ever a leak or anything like that, that's okay. The stuff inside will be protected. This floor is waterproof and there's a drain in it, so I can just take out the tub, squeegee the water to the floor if I ever had a tank fail or anything like that, and I'd be okay to go. I'm not going to damage anything. So that's one thing I like about this fish room is if I had a problem, it's a big cement box with a waterproof floor and a floor drain, so we'll be fine. I think I've showed this in other videos, but this is spray-on insulation. It's 2 inches thick at least. I think I'm more like 3 or 4 inches in the ceiling. And so basically the room is very well insulated. It's almost like being in a cooler, like a styrofoam cooler or something like that, that you would use to keep your food cold on a picnic. But this keeps the room warm. So it's sealed in really well. And so far, as it's getting colder, we're at about 40 degrees during the day here now, and not quite freezing yet in the mornings or at night. So far, it's kept the room toasty warm, and the heater's hardly ever on. So I'm really happy about that. What else did I want to show you? I can't think of anything I might have left. I think that's the basics of it. So I'm really excited. I've got some pretty good, Jim brought me some plants a while ago. Again, Jim Forche, thank you so much for these. And they're just easy to go plants. Like this is just water sprite, which I love because I can't kill it. And I'm not a plant guy, I'm a fish guy. So I just want plants that I can't kill, that'll make the fish feel comfortable and will suck out nitrates and all those things. So that's why I have these plants. So they're doing pretty darn good though. And look at the roots on those suckers. These are 75-gallon tanks, and the roots are 3/4 of the way down. So I might actually even have to trim them sometimes. But this will be great when I get the fish in that I'm thinking of getting in. So let me tell you about that. So I'm going a couple ways on which fish to get in. And I'm not sure what I'll do quite yet. A lot of you know me as a discus guy, but through a lot of my hobby, I've kept killifish. I love killifish. And all kinds of little fish, small live bearers, more of the harder to find stuff, rarer stuff on the live bearers, wild caught type swords and things like that. I love the black chin live bearer, one of my favorites. Killifish, small barbs, tetras, things like that. I love Cory catfish, lots of different kinds of catfish, but generally, and dwarf cichlids too, but generally small stuff is what I've kind of been into. And so there's a gentleman I've been corresponding with in Africa, and through him I might be able to get lucky and get a bunch of killifish. So that's what I'm looking at maybe doing. I feel like my forehead, my baldness is just super bright, so hopefully that's better. I just turned off this LED here, and now we just have the tank lights on. So hopefully that looks better, instead of like a whoa off my forehead. So anyway, and I can get some interesting species through this gentleman. I can get some Procatopus, and I love those. Those are neat live bearer, kind of a upper level, mid-water level-ish schooling fish. So look very similar to a rice fish, but they kind of take that niche. And so that's a fish that I'm really interested in getting. A lot of Aplocalycthes, which are like a tiny little live bearer. The one we know most in the hobby is probably Norman's lampi, with the bright blue eye. Just a tiny little silver brown kind of fish, but with a bright blue eye that glows. But there's all kinds of tiny little lampis like that. My bucket list one is Poro panchax or Congo panchax burchardi, which is this tiny little brilliantly colored lampi. Looks a lot like a dwarf pseudomulgil or some other dwarf rainbow fish, but I don't think he has those ones. But some Aplocalycthes species he has available. I think there's 3 Aphiosimians that he has available, and also an Epiplades. Now, one of the issues is I'm working with him to see if he can make sure to get me location information if he ships these to me, so that I can get a collection point. He might be reluctant to do that though, because this is his living, and he probably doesn't want to give away his collection points. So that's kind of the issue we're going back and forth on now. If I can get the collection point, if he'll release those to me, then I'll probably do that. If he won't, then I have to decide if I do it, is a commercial import that's notated. We can do that, like Nigeria, the month and year of the import, and like DF for Dan's Fish or something, just so that it's clear where they came from. That's fine. But it'd be a lot better if we could get the actual collection point for each of these species. And the other thing is a lot of them are labeled as like Aplocalycthes species and Epiplades species. So we don't really know exactly what it is that we'll be getting. So, but that's fine. I still want them. But identification of killifish can be tricky, especially with like Aplocalycthes species. And so, yeah, that's just a layer that we'll have to deal with if this goes through. But anyway, I'm thinking of doing that. He also has a few Pelvichromis species that I think are interesting, some Tenopona species, some other neat stuff that would be neat to get in. I just don't see it around very much. And Sorgii tetras, I believe I'm not mistaking that species name. I'd have to look it up again. I'm not that up on my African tetras, but the one he has is pretty cool. And some Congo tetras, things like that. So that's one way I might go. The other way I might go is through some other suppliers I've worked with regularly in the past, where I can get a lot of neat kinds of barbs, some more run-of-the-mill live bears, but they have some swordtails that are really good, that I know well. I've kept them for years from that supplier. And then also a lot of rainbow fish, which would be neat to get in. I love rainbow fish. And kind of more a smorgasbord of small aquarium fish, community type fish. So I might lean that direction too. I don't think I'm going to go all discus this time. And the reason is there's so many tanks and I want a variety. And if I get discus, then I have to keep this room so warm that it's not good for a lot of fish. It's too warm for a lot of the fish that are interested in keeping. So I think I might just go for a variety this time. So anyway, that's where my head's at, but I've got a couple weeks to figure it out. And we'll go from there. So let me tell you what I have left to do in this room. I'm going to flip you around here in a moment. Let me walk you through. So I have a 100-gallon that's going to go right here where those lids to those storage containers are, next to that 120-gallon. I just have to find the time and the crew to haul it and get it up and everything. I ran out of valves and filters, so I don't have these systems up down here yet because I don't have the filters hooked up yet. But those are in the mail, so I think Wednesday of next week those will come. So I should be able to get these 3 running pretty soon. These 3 are empty because they're 3 damaged 75-gallon tanks that I'm going to put on the bottom of this rack. They're out in my garage, and I just need to find the time to patch them, and that's not going to be anytime soon. So then I got this rack of old 20 longs up that I had in the old fish room, and they're up on the rack, but there's no water, air, filtration, or anything in them yet. So that's all coming. I just need more air valves. I ran out of air valves. So as soon as I get those, I'll be able to hook this up. And I'll have to run some pipe over too for water on this, which is no big deal. This I'm really excited about. This rack here that has this lone 5.5-gallon tank on it is going to be my breeding system. I have 30 of these 5.5-gallon tanks. They'll all fit on this rack in 3 levels. And this is where I'm going to breed the fish. So I'm going to bring fish in, but I love breeding aquarium fish. It's how I got into the hobby, and it's kind of my main love. So I'm going to fill this with 35.5-gallon tanks. 5.5-gallon tanks at a quantity of 30 of them, if that is clearer. And then I can grab pairs out and spawn them in these. Over here, this space which has nothing in it yet, right here, from here to the wall, the end of this rack to the wall, I'm going to put a shelf there, which is full of just plastic bins. And that'll be for incubating eggs, for the really small fry. I'm just getting a jump start on a fry station. So that's a fry hatching and fry raising station that will go right here. It's not in there yet, but it'll go there. And then these are all the old 30-gallon breeders that I've had for years. I just brought them in from outside. They were outside all summer, and so they're pretty dirty, pretty grungy right now. But I'll clean them out, and the good news is they're all drilled, which is fantastic. So we'll clean them out, get them going, and get those set up. I've got the drain plumbed, and I've got the pump for that sump area that I can get in there. It's not going to be a hard thing because I'll just run a soft, flexible hose to it. From there, a few feet over to these, which are the drains for that system. So just a little bit of hose that can go over and down there is all I have to attach to the pump, which I've already got. So this I need to get set up, and these 5.5 gallons I need to get set up. And then I'm pretty much ready to order the fish. And I've got Dr. Tim's Aquatics bacteria, so that takes, in my experience, about a week from the time I add that to when the tanks are cycled. So I can pretty much finish getting the tanks set up, get the filter system, everything calibrated, all that, dump in Dr. Tim's Aquatics, and then order the fish, because it's going to take the fish a week or two to get here anyway. So that's where we're at. We're super close. And then if you look behind me here, I'm going to show you something. Don't judge me. But I had to take everything from this basement out to the garage. Now that the basement's kind of done, I'm bringing it back to the garage. So all the fish supplies and sundry fish items and junk, fish junk, let's be honest, that I've collected over the years was out in the garage, and now it's here. So I'm gradually some of it's still out in the garage. So I'm gradually bringing it in from the garage and in here. So this is a big mess. But I'm bringing it in here. I'm throwing it into these black storage tubs and throwing those under the racks. So I've made a good dent I've got a ways to go, but I'll get that done pretty soon. And then this is where I'll put my desk and my computer and such. And then this, where these tanks are, between the end of this rack and that sink there, I'm going to put a packing station. So I'll have my bags and my boxes there so I can pack fish and have a sink there handy, receive fish and all that in this kind of section right here. I believe that's about 8 feet, 7-8 feet that I'll have there for that packing station. So that's where we're at. I'm excited. I'm getting real close. I'm getting impatient for sure. But I really wanted to do this fish room right. I've done a lot of fish rooms. I've worked in fish stores. I've worked for fish breeders. I've worked for wholesale operations. And I've learned a lot over the years. And I've never taken the time when I set up a fish room before to really do it right. I've always been in a hurry. There's always been funding issues. Been limited by time and by money. So this one, I said, nope, I'm doing this. I'm setting it up right. And yeah, I might have to tweak it every now and then. That's just the nature of the beast. But I'm going to make sure this is something that, for the long haul, that I'm happy with. And so I'm really taking the time to do this, I think, the right way. Of course, saying that, I'll get it up, I'll get the fish, and there'll be a million things that pop in my head that I'm like, oh, I should have done that! Dang it! But whatever, that's life, right? That's the hobby. So anyway, this is technically a brick and mortar retail store because people do come in here and shop. I do have, it is open to the public, limited hours, but it is open to the public, and that's how it's licensed. This area is retail slash residential, or business slash residential is how it's zoned. So that's kind of what it is. I live upstairs and I have my store, if you will, downstairs, although it's also my breeding facility and my hobby and my man cave. But it's legitimately a brick and mortar fish store as soon as I get it going and get it open again. So that's where we're at. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that's been on this journey with me, and I can't wait to fill this with a bunch of beautiful fish and show you that process, show you how I acclimate them, and show you, just getting them in, setting them up, and then a couple weeks later when they settle in, what they look like, and then how I ship fish, all that stuff. So I can't wait to have a bunch of fish to show off, show you how I care for them, show you how I breed them, and all that. I think it's gonna be a ton of fun. But anyway, thanks for watching. It was a little long video. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done it, this is that whole plea for subscriptions. Subscriptions make us happy because they make us know that people are watching and enjoying. So if you haven't subscribed and you like this, please do. If you're watching and you don't like this, don't subscribe, but don't tell anyone you don't like it. No, I don't know. That's an old showbiz saw. What does the old showbiz say? If you like it, tell your friends. If you don't, wait till Monday, then tell your friends. That's the showbiz saying, so they can have a good weekend. Anyway, thanks again, and yeah, Dan's Fish signing off.